The Palatine. The Palatine is the most famous of Rome's 7 hills. In ancient Rome it was considered one of the most desirable neighborhood in the city, and was the home of aristocrats and emperors. It was also believed to be the location of the Lupercal, the cave where Romulus and Remus were found by the she-wolf. These associations with ancient legends and imperial power made the Palatine one of the most important places in Rome. Today, the Palatine is an extensive archaeological site, where the ruins of the Flavian Palace and Stadium of Domitian can still be seen, along with the legendary hut of Romulus. The remains of the House of Augustus and the House of Livia have also recently been opened to the public, and are worth visiting for their amazing, well-preserved frescoes. The story of the Palatine begins with its myths and legends. The ancient Romans believed that Romulus and Remus once lived on the hill, and even identified an Iron Age hut as the hut of Romulus, the home of the founder of Rome. The remains of this hut, which was venerated by the Romans and repeatedly restored over the centuries, can still be seen on the southwestern corner of the Palatine today. Legends aside, the Palatine undoubtedly has ancient origins. According to some estimates, there were human settlements on the hill as early as the 10th century before Christ. The historian Livy claimed that the Palatine was the home of the first Romans, and for centuries it was regarded as one of the most prestigious neighborhoods in the city. The Palatine was desirable for a number of reasons: the mythical associations, the central location, the spectacular views of the city, the cooler temperatures in the summer, and the cleaner air. The residents of the Palatine got the best of both worlds, living in the center of the city without having to endure the noise and dirt of the streets below. During the Republican era, many wealthy Romans lived in luxurious villas on the Palatine. The hill later became home to Rome's first emperor, Augustus, as well as Tiberius and Domitian. These emperors are responsible for most of the impressive ruins we see today, including the Flavian Palace, the Stadium of Domitian, and the House of Augustus. In the Middle Ages various churches and convents were built on the hill, and in the Renaissance the Farnese family used part of the Palatine for their private botanical gardens. After the Renaissance, the Palatine remained largely untouched, until it was opened to the public as an archaeological site. The English word palace, the Italian palazzo and the French palais all owe their origins to the Palatine. The Emperor Augustus was born on the Palatine, and later lived here in luxury as emperor with his wife Livia. The remains of these two houses, the House of Augustus and the House of Livia, have some of the most impressive ancient art in the city, and are beautifully decorated with colorful frescoes. Caligula was killed on the Palatine. At the age of 28 he was assassinated in a tunnel beneath the palaces on the Palatine. According to one account, he was stabbed up to 30 times, and his loyal guard responded by indiscriminately slaughtering anyone who was nearby, including innocent bystanders. The Palatine was eventually completely taken over by Rome's emperors, each outdoing his predecessor by building increasingly lavish palaces. But Palatine Hill wouldn't be the center of affluence and privilege forever. After Rome's decline, Palatine Hill became neglected and its former glories fell into ruin. In the Middle Ages, churches and castles were built over the remains. Changes continued during the Renaissance as members of wealthy families established gardens on the hill. Much of Palatine Hill as it appears today remains covered by the ruins of Emperor Domitian's palace. The excavated ruins and intriguing mythology about Palatine Hill make it one of the most interesting places to visit in Rome. The Palatine is widely referred to as the mythical founding place of Rome. According to mythology, Palatine Hill was where twins Romulus and Remus were found by a female wolf that would keep them alive. A shepherd named Faustulus later discovered the infants, and took them home to be raised by his wife, Acalarentia. When Remus and Romulus were older, the boys decided to build a new city of their own on the banks of the Tiber River. As brothers sometimes do, they got into an argument about where to establish the new city. The disagreement had a violent end when Romulus killed his twin brother. Romulus then became the first king of Rome, the city named after himself, on April 21, 753 before Christ. There's obviously no proof to support this story, but archaeological evidence shows that people have lived on Palatine Hill since approximately 1000 before Christ. While some of the ruins on Palatine Hill remain piles of rubble, much of Domitian's palace has been well preserved, making it one of the best places to see on Palatine Hill. Palace of Domitian. The largest building on Palatine Hill is the Palace of Domitian. This vast complex served as the official residence of Roman emperors for 300 years. Construction of the Palace of Domitian was completed in 92 after Christ by Emperor Titus Flavius Domitianus, but it was later expanded by Septimius Severus. The palace consisted of 3 parts, allowing Domitian to separate business matters from his personal life. The 3 parts of the Palace of Domitian were the Domus Flavia, Domus Augustana, and the Stadium. Domus Flavia, Flavian Palace. The Domus Flavia is the northwestern section and public wing of the Palace of Domitian. It was connected to the residential wing of the palace, Domus Augustana, and contained several large reception rooms for entertaining and ceremonies. Inside the Domus Flavia there was a banquet hall, a room for judicial functions, a throne room, and a huge peristyle garden. The Domus Flavia was extravagantly decorated with columns, frescoes, friezes, fountains, and exotic marbles. The Domus Augustana was the residential wing of the Palace of Domitian and contained the emperor's private quarters. It was built on 2 levels with rooms surrounding 2 peristyle gardens and a huge pool. The stadium on Palatine Hill was likely used by the emperors for private games and events, even though it was too small to accommodate chariots. It may have also just been used as a garden. The stadium was the last section of Domitian's palace to be built, and many of the statues in the Palatine Museum were originally displayed here. The Palace of Domitian, even if in the palace, looks elegant and commanding. While it was fantastic to get an up-close look at Domitian's palace, it was the view from Circo Massimo below that really emphasized how large this structure actually is. Casa di Livia, a house owned by the wife of Augustus.